Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
Ron, episode 150.
Amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
Wow.
And so, because it's episode 150, we have to have a special guest on.
And we certainly do today. The creator of Pro Strategy Football, Kerry Batts, rejoined us for episode 150.
Yep, and he's going to talk about his brand new game. Before we get to that, ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is our website. 978-751-DICE. That's how you can send us a text. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And if you'd like to be a Patreon member and support the show, patreon.com/digitaltodice. And we are due for another Patreon event as we try to catch up from the ones we missed over the summer. Yep, and we have special ones for our Patreon listeners that they can only watch and listen to. Also, we have a Pro Pick'em pool for a football. If you go over to our website, we have it over there. It's through ESPN. It's a big, long address. I'm not going to read it, but if you just want to pick some teams and have some fun in the community, it's over there. I know everyone does the fantasy and the whole bit, but if you want to be part of the community here and join ours, it's over there as well as I pinned it on our Facebook group over there at Digital to Dice on Facebook, so ways to awesome. Play along with us. Let me see. Without further ado, let's get right to the interview. And if you know I said that correct this time, I always say without further review. I do. I always say that. Without further, I do. I catch myself when I listen after. Without further review, this time I got it right. Without further ado, I got it right this time. And I'm going to leave all that in. I'm going to leave it all in.
I just glaze over what you talk about.
All right, let's get to Kerry. Joining us on the Dice Line for episode 150 of the Digital to Dice podcast. I know, Ron, right? 150 episodes. He is the creator of Pro Strategy Football. He's been on the show before. Please welcome Kerry Batts.
Hey, thanks very much. And that's great. That's a great accomplishment for you guys. Congratulations, and thanks for having me.
We're about, 6 weeks into our fourth year?
Awesome.
Something like that, yeah. In fact, here's a stat for you. You guys like stats? It's almost been 100 episodes since we had Kerry on the show last.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. When you come on the show, that was almost 100 episodes ago.
Wow, a lot's changed since then, right?
Yes.
In the game and in the world.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So we have you on today. We want to talk about the new version, which is 2023 of Pro Strategy Football, set to come out possibly this week. We are recording this on September 7th of 2022. And any day now it could be dropping, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on.
Right.
As we do have one question we like to ask our guests. But since we've already asked you that question, we have another question we'd like to ask you. All right. That question is, if you could go back in time and change the results of any sporting event, what would you change?
Well, Super Bowl 13. I
was thinking that. I was thinking that would be the one that you would
have. I would have Jackie Smith catch that touchdown, and I would have the Cowboys win that game.
Bless his
Super
heart.
Bowl 10 is a close second because, again, Cowboys against the Steelers. And, yeah, those are the two I care about the most.
Bless his heart. He's got to be the sickest man in America.
Yeah.
It seems growing up as a kid, every Super Bowl was Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh won them all as a kid. It just felt like that every year. It's okay, here we go again, Dallas, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, anyway. All righty. So, let's get into the game, shall we? In episode 56, we kind of covered how you get into gaming and the whole bit like that. So I don't know if we need to do that again per se, but let's talk about Pro Strategy Football. Now, we haven't had you on the show, again, in almost 100 episodes, which was probably 2021 version.
No, 2020, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So let's talk about what's new with Pro Strategy Football, because this year in particular, there's been a ton of changes.
Yeah, every year I add more customization features, and this year's got a ton of them. One of the things that's added this year is skin tone. Is you can now set your players as having dark or light skin tone, and the modders, Apollo is one of them. They've gone back on every player of every team from 1940 till around 1940 till today, to set their skin tone right. What do you think of that?
He had said 80. He's known to our listeners as Mike from the Truck. It's Michael Jabral.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Mike.
80,000 players.
Can you believe that? I mean, man, hat tip to him.
Wow.
And Lee. And I also want to thank a guy. His name is John. He's the one. He asked me if I could do this. I said, well, I'm not an artist, and I don't have the time to create that mask. I need a mask that I can lay on top of the players at real time. And we had to work on it together because some complexity there. He created it. I added the logic, and there we go. So now we have that. Another thing we have this year is for people who like historical games and all, you can now put the goalpost at the front of the end zone or at the back of the end zone. And there's different models. There's a college, and these are default. There are a college model, a modern pro model of the goalpost, and a more legacy model. And they're customizable by team. So I try to make as much customizable as possible. More stats now and more ratings. One of the things people complained about before and asked me to do was divide up the stats more realistically on the defensive side. Offense has always been really good. People love that. And I hate to say it, but that's where my focus was.
Yeah.
So I was guilty of neglecting the defense. But this year, it's orders of magnitude better. I mean, the sacks, the tackles, everything is really good. And again, the modders have helped because they put 9s where they belong and they put 3s where they belong on, pass rush and that kind of. And also you now have run blocking rating and pass blocking ratings on backs and tight ends. That's important. The weather is now different. Honestly, weather was kind of a second thought before. Mm-hmm. Now it's really cool. So when you create a league, you can say what month does my league start playing? Because we know generally you start in September, and with college or in the NFL. But we also know there are leagues that play in March.
Right.
Well, and then it takes that, and it looks, well, what current week of the season are you in, and where are you? So if you're in Cleveland and it's in December, there's a really good chance it's going to be cold and probably snowing, but if you're in Miami, not so much. And that brings up another customization. One more thing, and I'll stop for a minute.
Yeah.
The sleeves. So sleeves, there's now 3 sets of sleeves with any team. And in the past leagues, you can also set the preference at a league level or team level. Because some past leagues, they almost exclusively wore long sleeves and then short sleeves. And now today there's no sleeves. But even if you wear no sleeves or short sleeves, if it's cold enough, I set your team to wear long sleeves, but when it comes up to the new game, you can always say, no, I don't want them to wear sleeves. So those are just some more of the things that you can set.
Delighted that you took the baseball thing and put in Ted Kluszewski's choice of sleeves.
There you go.
That's great. So if you're new to the game and you're buying it in Steam release and possibly a Mac release.
Yeah, so there will be a Mac version on Steam, but I'm hoping to also put it on the Apple Store.
Nice. So because there's a lot of mods, and we'll be talking a lot about that, but what actually ships with the game?
Since I'm not licensed, I only ship it with some fake leagues. I have a pro league that has 43 men and one that has 53 men. I have a 131 team. I think it's still last year's 130 team league. 12 conferences that more or less mirrors the college football. Now, another mod creator started working on it, but he ran out of time. So now this year it'll support 131 because another team did get added. But that's not in the game yet. Waiting on that mod guy. But the support is there. So all it takes is someone in the community to say, I want to create a real college league. And I love college, so I'll usually take and play a season. In fact, one of my most fun games was an exhibition game between Texas A&M and another team that shall not be named, and it went several overtimes. And one of the things people who are new may not know, you can coach, or you can do a real quick simulation to see what happens, or you can watch the game live.
Right.
And the result is always, it's the same. Now, if you coach, of course, you make an impact. But if you simulate it or watch it, what happens is the AI actually plays every down of the game. So here I chose to watch it live, and it went into overtime, and it kept going, and A&M won that game. So I never
there you
played
go. There you go.
I haven't played that one again yet.
We won't mention any burn orange or the fact that Pro Strategy Football 2028 will just be have the two college conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's just absolutely nuts. Okay, and of course the modding community. Will they really have, once the game releases, every season from 1940 available for free?
Yeah, can you believe that? Everything for free. That's just it. They're doing that because they're not tied to the game at all.
Right.
And so they're free to go create these past leagues, past schedules. If you want to play, 69 Jets and play that season, you can do that. If you want to play the 72, Miami Dolphins and see how you do, you can do that. And this year, there's actually some skins that don't have face masks. So if you want to go play teams from the 40s, you can do that. And they've actually created those sprites as well. Oh, and another thing is the graphics were greatly improved this year. I hired an artist, and I've got more layers. I laid out what I needed her to do. And so it's much higher resolution. So then when mainly Lee, but these guys came out and created the new ones, you can really tell what the logo on the helmet is now. They did a wonderful job.
Oh, fantastic. I want to talk about the graphics for 1 second. So in case anybody hasn't played Pro Strategy Football, you look at almost like a overhead view of the field, or maybe a TV booth view of the field, left to right, horizontal, as you will.
Yeah.
And you see all the players on the field. You see all 22 players lined up, and with the mods, they have their correct uniforms and colors on, and helmets and the whole bit. So it's a very visual game. This is not an X's and O game. This is, not just a press a button and get text game. This is a very visual game. So you get to play visualized as well as a little text description of what happened in there. It's all very colorful. The mods do a great job with putting like end zone logos and center field logos and the whole bit. So this is a very, very graphical game.
And also this year, the models for some of the stadiums are in there. So, for instance, we did. I did the game for Vince Scully, and it was played at Candlestick Park, and you could see where the stands kind of jut down from the right field line towards home plate, and where the seats come in. And so, it really felt like, Dave, that you were playing a game at Candlestick Park. It wasn't just generic San Francisco 49er stadium.
Right.
It was,
and we just did a show on this too. We just did a show on getting in. I forget what we called it now, but it was the immersion of the game, and it was the setup. We talked about setting up your game, and how much setup do you do, and how much I don't want to say modding, but I mean I like to put in as much as the game will allow me to do. I like to put in. I like to put in my logos and my colors, because I don't want to get on there and I don't want to play the 76 Buccaneers and have them be, red and white. They're orange, and I don't want to play the Eagles and have them be blue, And so when I play, I like to really doll mine up, and I spend a lot of time with that. And we've talked about that on the show quite a bit. So that's in this game here. That's what you get. You get, when you install the mods, which are free, they really enhance the game, and you get all the colors. And like Ron was saying, now the individual stadiums are in there. I hear there's Easter eggs in the stadiums as well. If you look for them on certain dates of certain games, if you play historical games, they're in there as well, which is really kind of fun. And let's talk about the animation for 1 second, because I've watched, Al, Red Sox fan, he's played a little bit on his channel with the new version, and it is just quite noticeable that the animation it's a little sharper and it's a little smoother.
Thank you. Yeah, so definitely worked on that, and I'm always trying to improve the AI and the animation. So there may be even some more improvements this year, because I've got tasks full of ideas from people. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that.
And how hard is that to go and fine-tune that? Because it was very noticeable. I will say that it was just, not that it was ever bad, but again, with each iteration, things tend to get a little bit better. But this year I thought it was a big step up. How difficult is that to go and do that?
Thanks. It's pretty hard because people need to understand it's not playing. Instead, I'm trying to choreograph the results that happened. So if I threw a short pass that the guy catches and picks, and gains an additional 20 yards, in my code I say, well, there's a chance that the man defending him slipped since he got a good number of yards, or he just is slow catching him. And so if I try to, one of the things I ran out of time is I would like to show the receivers a little more open sometimes. That's actually harder than people think, because I can't really get into the technical details because it winds up getting in the weeds. But yeah, it's actually pretty hard, and it's challenging and fun. And there's always going to be some special situation. Like last year, I added the 3-3-4 nickel. I always had the 4-2 nickel. So this time I added the 3-3 nickel. Well, I missed like one place where one of those extra men, he would go running all the way across the field. So I had to find out why is that happening. And so, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's part of the fun.
Now, there's been some other games I played. I think there were baseball games in the past, and they had the fun. I call it the fun animation that you have, okay? And it was in this particular game, there was a couple games like big heads and big butts and big arms, and but that added to the fun of it because you weren't trying to be MLB The Show. This game was not trying to be that. And there's a handful of games out there, and I don't want to call them silly, but they're just fun because they're not trying to be real. They're not trying to be serious. Do you think you're trying to get more towards the real side of the animation than the fun side? And I say that because when you play and you throw the long bomb, it's like watching a 11-year-old soccer game. Everybody runs to the ball, and then you see what happens. But that's half the fun with that because you're trying to enjoy this game for what it is, and you're not sitting there saying, "Oh, that wouldn't really happen. 9 guys wouldn't run to the ball." No, but that makes it fun. So I guess the question is, are you trying to get it more realistic, or do you find that the fun part of this is where you want to be?
Well, thanks. I'm glad you said that because that's actually where I kind of am on it too. I like the animation, and
well, what I'm getting at is the baseball game. One of the newer versions, they went more real looking, more real gameplay, and when they did that, it just sucked the fun out of the game. It did, because you were used to this kind of funny game with big guys, and they were doing all their things, and that's what you enjoyed out of the game. And then when they try to make it like a realer-looking game with slender bodies and real animation, you're like, you kind of lost me here because I played it for this reason. So that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Well, that's a good point. I liked the pixel guys before, but you couldn't see the kind of detail I wanted to see on their helmets. But I did like it. And if someone were to create a higher resolution version of those models, it would be easy. I mean, the guys who created my mods, they've got sprite sheets. In fact, there's a fella, a beta tester, not a beta tester, one of the users on Steam. He's creating teams of all orcs. And so as long as you fit in that block of what that frame of the player should look like, you can make them look like whatever you want. So on my side of things, I think I'm pretty done with the sprites because the editor is much better this year, by the way. But you're right, it creates models that look like the new models. Now, if anyone ever wants to have a secondary, an alternative presentation in the game, they could give me a new PSD file I could include in the game so that then when you pull up the editor, you could say, well, I want to look like this instead of that. And then that gives you the freedom. Or you can do what the modders do and go create it in Photoshop or something.
Right. Do you think the Orcs would be a heavy run team?
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah.
It's the first ever combined NFL and Blood Bowl sim.
I know, man. Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So going back into the actual engine type things, I mean, the game now will have the capability of playing 82 years of football. And so, as you know, when you originally designed the basis of this in the 90s, I mean, that's 30 years later. How do you have help from someone to help with what new defenses are and new offensive schemes and kind of explain that process?
Yes, that's a great point. First of all, back in the late 80s and the early 90s, memory on computers was so tight. And so there wasn't even a career mode. Because remember, again, I was the developer, and Coach Landry gave me
let me stop you there for a second. If you didn't listen before or are new to this, Kerry Batts is the creator of Tom Landry Football. That was out in the 90s. All right. So go ahead with.
Thank you. There. And but you're making a great point. So then the game vanished for a while. That company went out of business. I asked them to give me the rights back, and they did, but I didn't do anything. And then fast forward to 2011, and I finally got it out again. And then users are the ones who give me so much feedback. And then I research online to find out more about modern offenses, modern defenses, and what kind of difference they'll make. So it's between my own online research and then just a tremendous community. For example, like I said, the first game was exhibition and single season. That was it. So when folks started asking me to add career mode, I honestly didn't know where to start because that's not my focus. My focus is mainly on the strategy of coaching, not the strategy of management. And it's funny because some people say, well, coaching isn't strategy. Well, of course it is.
All strategy.
Yeah. But to them, the only strategy is in managing, and that's inaccurate. So I had to learn a lot, and I'm still learning a lot. One of my beta testers is the one who helps me figure out how do you determine who the MVP of a game is? How do you determine? And then I don't have it in the game yet, but I will have in an update season awards. And yeah. So, quarterback of the year, running back of the year, that kind of thing. So I'll have that in there pretty shortly.
And one of the things, since we had you on last, was the work done by the Pro Football Research Association, which goes back to sacks to what, 68 unofficial sack numbers, or was it even earlier than that?
I honestly don't remember. Most of that research was done by Lee.
Right.
Lee and Mike the Truck.
Mike Cabral. And, because it wasn't an official stat in the NFL until 1982. And I don't know if we talked about this before, Dave, but people went back and went through the play logs.
I think we did, yeah. And so now all these football games can now have sacks,
So to help refine some of those things, and it's not just, well, Deacon Jones ripped his head off and sacked 47 times. Well, now we can say, well, okay, it was close. It was 45. Yeah. So is there any other? I mean, you obviously listen to the people who beta and people who buy the game. Is there any input from those who actually are on the front lines on a college or high school or maybe even a professional level to help you tinker to try to get today's football right?
No, that would be awesome.
Okay.
That is an invitation.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. If any of your listeners actually are involved in college or pro teams and would like to contribute some of their knowledge to me, I would love to take it.
Glory Days boxing and football person who's also a coach in Arizona. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Sweet. Yeah, man.
Let's talk about gameplay for a second. Okay. Just in case somebody hasn't played, maybe hasn't played in a while. So you go in, you pick your season, and you can play as any team or all teams, pretty much, right?
Right.
All right. Now, when you start the game, can you play both teams in the game, or do you have to select one team or the other when you start a game?
Great question. So, man, one of the things is I give people so many options, it winds up making it complicated. Because, first of all, you can say, do I want to just play a pickup game? I call them exhibition games. or do I want to play a season, or do I want to play a career? Well, let's go with exhibition right now, because what I'm about to tell you is generally true. So in exhibition, though, you can actually say, I want to take the 1967 Jets, and I want to play them against the 72 Dolphins. You can do that. So then that brings up, okay, what about the rules? Well, you can configure the rules to whatever you want. You can put the goalpost wherever you want. And then back to your question, you can say, maybe I just want to watch it played out. So I say, watch it, and I just sit back and the AI plays it out. Or you can say, I want to coach against the computer, or I want to coach against the guy sitting next to me, my buddy, and I'm really going to have to get online multiplayer back in the game someday. It was in there in Tom Landry, but that was a different day. Or you can coach, so yes, you can coach both sides. And one of the things you can do also is, if you're one of those folks who says, I only want to coach offense, or I only want to coach defense, there's a setting in the game that says, let the AI pick one or the other, or both. And even then, you're not obligated. So let's say I want to coach offense, and I let it suggest a defensive play. It's going to come up. I can override it, or I can go, yep, that's good, and hit go. But to answer your question, yeah, I can coach one or both sides.
Okay. And let's see. Now, there is a basic mode and advanced mode. Talk a little bit about them.
Okay. So it's analogous, if anyone ever played the old pay dirt game and the old, say, Stratomatic or ATBA. I would say it's similar in that way, because pay dirt, you had, I think, like 8 or 9, I forget how many plays. And so you would call off tackle. You didn't say who I want to give the ball to, what the formation was, do I want it to be a counter play. You didn't do any of that. It was much faster. So the casual mode is much faster play, and it's also easier, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. If you just want to play a game real quick, it's fun. The advanced mode is where you say, well, now I want to call everything about the play. I want to have a brown formation. I want to send my flanker in motion. I want to run a counter left, and in defense you have the same kind of options. So those are does that help?
Yeah, it does. Can you overuse somebody in the game? So if you kept handing off to Tony Dorsett over and over and over, at some point does that guy get tired?
Yeah, so used to you could abuse them, and I added fatigue. Well, it had fatigue before, but it wasn't real well done. Now it's well done, and you can turn on a setting that says automatically rest my players. But if you're somebody that wants to abuse your players, you turn that off, and he's got a little bar under him, and it's going to be green, and then it's going to turn yellow, and then it's going to turn orange, and then it's going to turn red, and his performance is going to start to wane a lot once it starts. Even once it starts to get yellow, and the further it goes, the longer it's going to take him to rest and recover, and you start greatly increasing his chance of getting an injury.
Okay.
So you ought to be careful doing that, and the AI is much better at that. And this year, all the key offensive men now have fatigue. So if I keep throwing to the same receiver, he's going to get tired too. And if I run my quarterback, which didn't used to be an option, used to the quarterback could only run a sneak or a draw. Now he can run a counter, he can run a sweep, he can run anything you want. But he's going to tire, if you keep doing it.
Can you turn off fatigue and or injuries?
Yes, you can.
So I can turn off injury, turn off fatigue, and I can run Tony Dorsett every single play?
You sure can. And let him run up 300 yards. That's right.
Okay. I just wondering, not that I would do that, but,
You could run James Wilder 700 times, which the Buccaneers did in the early 80s. But
why not? But, I want to say right there, one of the things I am really about giving people choices. I feel like you bought the game. It's your game. All I did was I'm giving you an engine. If you want to turn off home field advantage, and you want to turn off fatigue, and you want to turn off injuries, turn them off. Have fun, right?
Right.
Just like next, some folks want me to add. So I added retirements to the game. Well,
for the career agent, right?
Yes, for career. I have mixed feelings on that. I've had Roger Staubach retire on me in like 77. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, I love the options. I remember playing NHL 94 on the Sega Genesis, and I would play with everything on, icings and offsides and all that, and penalties and the whole bit. And every time I'd play something, they'd turn all the rules off, and it was just one big free-for-all where there was no penalties, no icing, no offs. There was no rules at all, and it was two different games. But they had their fun. But when I played, I turned them all on because I wanted to be a little bit more realistic. So it's I'm glad that you have options there for people that want to have just crazy fun and people that want to play a little bit more realistic.
And going to the realistic thing, I mean, if you watch some of our Red Sox fans' videos on YouTube, I mean, you can really get down in the weeds. I mean, people will take a look at this and maybe go, it's Tecmo Bowl on steroids. And that really just isn't the case anymore. I mean, you can probably one of the deepest game calling engines that's out there on the computer.
Oh, Al, when he does his game, he's got one of those big whiteboards behind him with all the symbols and the arrows and the diagrams and the Pythagorean theorem. And he's like, okay, I think I got my play ready to call.
I love it. When he does that. I'm gonna need Al to give me more feedback next year. Al, like I said before, I have different beta testers, and hint, if you guys want to next year. Yep. Al, what he really brings, in addition to his energy, is the AI and the animation, and something he really wanted, I really wanted, but doing this mainly on weekends, I just ran out of time, and I know people get tired of hearing that. Believe me, I feel bad about it, but I wanted to add a fantasy draft for career play. Didn't get it in. It will be in there next year. So if you want to start
those are always really fun. There's a couple of games I play, mostly hockey games, and they have the fantasy draft. And I would just draft my team, and that's all I do. I draft my team, I look at my team, and I just set it to autoplay. How did I do? Good or bad? I don't really play in the games, but it's so much fun seeing this guy with this guy. How fun would it be, to have, Staubach with, Franco Harris in the background.
Oh, I know, man.
You know what I mean? It's complete fantasy, but those can be super, super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we should explain that you really are just a very one-person operation, that you have a regular job and you do this in your spare time.
Right.
We asked you this a couple of years ago, and I'll ask this again. Go through the development cycle for the game. I mean, because you've already mentioned a couple times things you want in the 2024 version. So when did you start coding the version that's coming out very soon?
Honestly, I was pretty burned out because I'm guilty of keep trying to give people more of what they want. So I was putting updates out in December. And
where is that line, Kerry? Ron has a great question here. Where is that line? So you release 2022 and you're doing updates and squashing bugs and the whole bit. Where is that line to say, okay, I'm starting to work on 2023 because we're going to add so much to it that we need to focus on next year, and this year's kind of run its course. Where is that line?
Well, December was too late. It hurt me and burned me out, and then I lost my brother in February.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's tough getting started. I got started in January. Thank you very much, by the way. So I got started in January, and then that took a hit. So then I got started again, probably late March. And then this year, my goal is hopefully there are no bugs. My top priority is fixing any critical bugs. Anything I can duplicate, I obviously will try to fix. But as far as enhancements and features, I'm thinking stop that sometime in October. And then take some time off, enjoy the holidays. But I'm already, one of the things that's hard on me is I literally have hundreds of items or tasks, whatever you want to call them, ideas for the game, and I've got them organized, but sometimes they cross, Sure. And so I'm going to spend probably a month just trying to consolidate all that, prioritize that.
That must be the tough part is to have all these. It's like the game comes out and you're happy with it, but you're like, I got this suggestion and that suggestion, and I notice we can do this better, and I notice we can do that better, and there's some things we can put in here, and it's just you have all these ideas. You want to make the game as best as it can be, and you're probably like me, you're never satisfied. You always think you can do better, and I should have put that in, but at some point you got to say, I have all these things, let me put them in next year. Just it's so much easier just to put them in next year and try to cram everything in at the last minute,
Oh yeah, and in fact, that's when you add bugs, right? I mean, I was adding stuff this week and last week, and I'm finally having to say no to some things. And I know some of my one of my beta testers said, "Can you wait 2 weeks?" And I got to thinking about, I thought, why would I do that? I've already got way more than last year. I'm already starting to fatigue myself. So
Yeah.
And the things he's asking for, they're good things. But honestly, some of those will be in an update because they're not that hard. It's just they're time consuming. And then the other things will wait till next year. So.
Yeah, we did talk to somebody that developed a game, and he said that sometimes you change one thing, and 6 other things go wrong, and it's like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? And you got to fix these 6 other things, you know.
Yeah, and I got to be amused when I read someone say, "Well, that doesn't sound like that would be too hard." I just go, I have no idea how hard it would be.
Do you play other football games, or do you collaborate with other game designers about ideas, or maybe commiserate over, swap stories in that regards?
No, but that would probably be a good idea. Honestly, so my real job keeps me really, really busy.
Right.
And it will keep me less busy next year.
Are you close to retirement?
I am. I turned 64 in March.
Well, somebody has to run the Playboy Mansion, It might as well be you, right?
So my real job will keep me less busy. So I am excited about. That doesn't mean I'm going to turn around and put 60 hours into this.
Right.
Because I already put 40 hours into that, and then I'll probably put at least 20, 25 hours a weekend on this.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Oh, because I'm off on Fridays. The way we work at work is 4/10s. So Friday is this.
Oh my
Saturday
goodness!
Is mostly this, unless I'm, try to keep balance with my family, and they constantly reassure me, Dad or my husband, you're doing fine. But I look forward to that load coming off some, and then this is more of a fun thing, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think people have the misconception that I think Dave Cook. Maybe Richard Hanna has a side job too, or a real life job. That these companies and all these game producers, that's all you guys do, and you have a full-time job. And we've had Joe Bryan on, and he's got a full-time. I mean, this for most game designers, this is a side thing.
Yeah, because it doesn't make enough to.
Right.
And once I'm retired, then it will be a great supplement.
But I was just kind of curious, if you got together with someone else, or if you, played a Strat on the computer or Action PC or Second and 10 and went, oh, what a great idea.
Oh yeah. So back to your question. Sorry, I lost track.
No, it's right.
It is a great idea, and it would be fun. I do think once I am retired, I do plan on doing that more. So right now, I want to play my game in October and November. Yes. But you're right. I mean, some of these other games, I don't really have anyone to play with anymore here. My sons are not into the board games as much as me. They're into other kind of games. My brother's one. We used to play all sorts of board games. And so I do think it'd be a great idea to try out some of those games and like you say, see someone go, what a great idea. I could do something similar. You don't want to steal the idea.
Right.
But you can
obviously not similar. Stealing, but, right.
Yeah. I mean, we're all similar, and I'm sure people, I would like to think that maybe some of the guys look at mine and go, that's pretty cool. I could do something similar.
Right.
So it's a great question. And, yeah, I do play computer games, but generally they're not sports right now just because I'm tired. But I will do that. I like your idea.
When you get to October, so
yes.
Let's say last October, and you finally got to review last year's version of the game that you'd worked so hard on.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the overtime game against A&M and the team from Austin that shall not be named. Was there anything else that you're sitting there just on a random afternoon or whatever, and you were surprised how well it worked, or delighted how oh, wow, yeah.
In my game?
In your game,
So one of the things that I really like is to have a good AI.
Right.
And I will give my word right now, the AI never cheats. Why would I do that? Because then I wouldn't have any fun. But I know there are people who have accused it of that before because they've lost a game. And then I look at who they are, and I'm like, well, that team won one game in real life. So
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, I like it when it's a close game. If I blow out the computer and we have pretty well matched teams, I then want to go play it again to see, because if I can consistently blow them out, that means I'm missing something. But so I like how the AI plays really well, I guess. If that.
Okay.
What would you say the biggest change is from last year, and what are you most proud of from last year?
I would say the biggest change by far is in career play. I had to redesign the whole thing. I mean, because in the past you had a favorite team. You picked Dallas or Cleveland or whoever, and you managed that team across multiple seasons. Well, this year, you can manage any team, all the teams, no teams. So as far as GM or commission or whatever, and I kept it flexible. So I don't want to go into the weeds unless you want me to, but that was the biggest change, and it's huge, so that every phase you can step in, and if you want to pick the draft picks for every team, you can. Oh, and the draft is so much smoother this year. So in career play, I would say that. Although now for me personally, the most fun thing is TV mode and highlights mode. I don't know if you guys know what those are.
Yeah, we saw Al do that. Yeah, so explain what that is.
So they're similar, but they're a little bit different. They both mean that you do have to run a simulation on a game, but don't view the results. Highlights mode then says, all right, I'm going to step in, but I'm going to step through the highlights, and I can either have it on a timer so that every 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, it goes to the next highlight, but you don't know who won until the very end. And even if you go back and look at the list of drives, you only see up to where you are on the highlights. So that's really fun because...
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
So it's kind of like watching the old ESPN. It's like, and now it's Curtis, my favorite Martin. Whoop, into the end zone. Touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, of course, you can be listening to Big Al's narration while you're watching that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that one second.
And now similar to... I'm sorry?
I said, I do want to talk about that 1 second, but go ahead and finish your thought.
So TV mode is very similar, except now you're inside of another game. Maybe you're coaching a game or watching a game. There's a button where you can say, I want to go to the studio. When you go to the studio, any games that have been simulated but not revealed, and if they've been revealed, I'll mark them as played previously because they're done. You can still go look at them. You can still go view the highlights for that game. But what's really cool is, let's say you've got 3 games out there that you haven't revealed. They're going to match up pretty close to the time you are. So like if my game is 3 minutes left in the second quarter, those games will also be roughly the same time. So you can go to the studio and step in and watch the highlights on those games too.
Can you play those games or can you only watch?
You can only watch right now. Remember, because they had to be simulated.
Okay.
Because it's not actually playing them out. I would have to have a multi-threaded. I'd have to.
Okay.
And that would really get involved. And maybe in a few years.
Okay.
Can you stagger the start times? I mean, could you kind of do the Sunday doubleheader that way? Like have 6 games in one window and 4 in the next, or no?
So that's a great question. I had not thought of that. So what you can do is you can choose not to watch them and then watch them when you play your second game. But I love the idea of maybe staggering them like by an hour or two. Choose when they start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the 1 o'clock games, the 4 o'clock games, and then you got a 7 o'clock game, and then Monday Night Football, you got 2 games. So, yeah, you got all kind of things.
All day, yeah, all for that. And of course, as Kerry writes down the notes, there's different sound packages that come with this game. There's the television one, which we've teased a lot, that has Al Red Sox fan doing it, and watching Al do an Al TV game was an experience unlike any other. And then Chris Slovic, who did the AM radio version of that, and he did a sound package in that. And so those are the 2 that come, and the it's not it's not Bob Shepard that you had do it all those years. It was the guy that his backup at Giant Stadium. First down.
Yeah, so I've got the legacy sound effects commentary, and then I've got Big Al, like you say, and then Chris Slovic. And I've actually, getting back to what you said a while ago, you got to at some point release the game.
Right.
I have some hidden settings in the game.
Ooh.
That way, if I add them now, then I can implement the logic later. But if you don't add them now, you can't ever add it. But one of them is, and so this is not a promise it'll be in there, but I think it's a high chance.
Okay.
The setting is already there that says, I want to hear alternate commentary when I go to the studio. So then what that would mean is I'm listening to Big Al in my game, but when I go to the studio, maybe I hear Chris Slovic.
I see.
So
nice.
Easy thing to do. It just, takes time. So
how did that all come about, getting Chris and Al involved with the audio?
That's Mike in the truck. Am I saying that right? Mike in the truck?
It's Mike in the truck.
Yeah, that's him, man. He has given me so many ideas over the years, and that was him. And he said, hey, instead of the canned commentary, you think you could make that configurable, and then we could have different sets, and I can check with Chris Slovic and Big Al. And, of course, I've watched their streams, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, heck yes. What a great idea.
I like how in this year you kept the Al Red Sox fan kicking bug in the game. I really do like that because you can't tune into an Al Red Sox fan stream of Pro Strategy Football without an easy field goal or an extra point miss. It happens all the time. It happens so much we don't even realize it happens anymore. But I'm glad you kept that in the game.
What's amazing about that is I look at that and I'm thinking, I must have a bug in the game, but it doesn't happen to me. So, you know what? I think I did add some code that says if Big Al is playing, then that's right. I need to probably look at that. Not really.
If you haven't, please add it. What?
Hey, when you're playing the game, do you have the option of skipping the animation? So you pick your play, hit the button.
Yes.
And, you can skip the animation, just get the results?
Yeah.
Oh,
in fact, I used to do that because let's say you want to play a game during lunch, or heck, actually, if you turn off the animation, probably 30 minutes and you're done. And if you do casual mode and turn off the animation, I bet you could finish a game in 20 minutes. So, absolutely. And here's the cool thing: since the animation is just a choreography of what happened, you call your play, it skips the animation, you see the results. It's a 45-yard gain. You say, wait, I want to see that play. You hit replay and it shows the play.
Oh, fantastic. So, so you can skip along and say, oh, something happened. Let me go check that out.
That's right.
That's great. That's great.
So what's harder for you to code, the AI or the animation?
Man, that's a great question. I would say the AI because, man, you got to consider so many things, right? I get some guys that say, a coach would punt there. But then we all know there are cases where the coach might not.
Right.
And so I have to add some things in there. So next year, I think I need to add more personalities to the coach. Right now I have, is he conservative, balanced, or a gambler? Next year I need to add more. But, and then, you run into situations that you wouldn't normally hit. And I just had not configured, I had not thought of those. Like, I keep saying, but some guys made a good point. If I've got the ball on my own 25 and there's 15 seconds left and it's the fourth quarter, I'm probably just going to, in real life, I'm probably going to kneel and go to overtime. Well, my game, no, he throws a Hail Mary. And so that's somewhat subjective because if I had him kneel every time, somebody'd say, why doesn't he throw the Hail Mary?
Right.
That's where what I should do is look and say, if he's a gambler, he throws a Hail Mary. If he doesn't, he kneels. So
we talked with another game designer about a game that's coming out, and he used the computer version that he has a hold of to refine the stats to his game, that he was able to get enough reportage out of the version that he had to do that. Is it possible, because I know that in any games that, if we set up the Cowboys and the Pee Wee team, that you can run that game 1,000 times and get the result. So you know how many points were scored, what the win percentage. Is there a version on your end that you could like run a season 100 times and get it to spit out that stuff to help refine that to make the game better? Or
that's a great question. So I do have it on in debug mode only right now, but I do.
Right.
Well, that's not totally true. If you run to analyze,
well, it doesn't need to be in our hands. It would be just something to help you.
No, but that's a good question. So if you run analyze game, it runs that game either 100 times or 1,000 times,
right?
With however you set it up. And I thought about doing that for the season. Now I did not think of what you just said. What I thought of was if I do a season, then I would. And let's say I run that season 100 times, that's going to take a little while, but if people know that, it's okay. And by a little while, it won't take a full minute, but it'll take tens of seconds.
Right.
And then what I could get is, okay, based on 100 runs, Dallas should finish 7-9. So your goal is to beat that. So yeah, I could do that. Now I like your idea that because no, we have not done that. What we do is we actually manually run the seasons. The modders do this mainly.
Right.
Lee does, and he runs it and says, well, if I give Lawrence Taylor a 9 versus an 8, where does he wind up on the sacks and tackles and all? But I love your idea.
Yeah, it's just something that this other designer says. I when I put in a season, I let it run and I let it do 4 or 5 or 6 or 10, whatever, how many seasons he runs, and I look at the stats to see if I need to adjust anything on his end. And then because if something's out of whack, he's like, well, I'm glad I didn't put this season out because we can fix this, or I can tweak something and then I'll simulate it again and see how close I can with that.
Yeah, because I think one of the things, and this isn't meant to be a criticism of you at all, is that people look at it, they see the screenshots from it, and they think Nintendo. And if you look at no, and they look at a game like Madden, which is definitely an arcade game with all that stuff. And so there are, you are really you and the folks over at OOTP and stuff like that are really the first people to kind of combine the genres of serious sim in a good-looking package. And I don't want people to say, he's got it looking like this, it's Madden Light. And no, this is, you watch what a Big Al Sims, and, I need to move the quarter over to this zone and that, this is a serious football sim, except for you see it fully as opposed to read about it.
That's a great point, because there was a text football game I liked a lot. Oh, I forget when it was, the 80s or 90s. But it was all text. And it had real players and stuff, and they had college and pro. Now, I loved that thing. But, yeah, it was all text. You make a great point, and I'd love to find some way to let people know, because, I look at arcade games, for example, and you can throw the bomb every play, and you'll probably run up a big score. You do that and play on my game, you're probably going to lose the game, right? Because the app is going to adjust to you and so forth. So.
Do you have the ability to edit a player, or do you think that might be something in the future so we can fix Al's field goal kickers and give them 99 distance and 99 accuracy?
I don't think it would help.
Yeah. But I mean, because some people like to do that, in certain games, even in Madden, create a player and they create a team of 99s and a team of zeros and they just have some fun with it, or they tweak, or maybe they have their favorite player and they're like, I want to tweak my favorite player. So do you have the ability to edit a player? Or is that something in the future?
No, it's there. The editor is really powerful. You can edit everything. You can edit the league. Like I said, you can edit the start month of the league. You can go drill down and edit the teams to say. And the thing is, I have quick set just for what you said, because maybe I want to pick a team and I want to quickly set every attribute to 9, which is the highest. And that ought to be a good team, or maybe I pick another team and I set them all to 2, and I try to see, can I ever beat the 9 with a 2? I don't know, but yeah, or I just leave everybody else alone. But maybe I stick Kerry Batts in there as a running back, and I make him all nines.
Okay, so you can create yourself in the game. Is that
sure?
You can. So you could edit Tom's Brady's numbers to make him better or worse, or you could put yourself in the game. You could have him be. So you could be Tom Brady's receiver in the game.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty fun actually, right?
Yeah. So you know what I would do? I would create Ron in my game, right? And I would send him deep on every play, and I'd never throw to him.
There you go.
I'd never throw to him. I just watch him keep running down the field. Ron, go deep, go deep, go deep. It's like, are you ever gonna throw to me? Oh yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Ron, now you know who your friends are, man.
You think I hadn't figured this one out before then?
Hey, he's my ace relief pitcher in OOTP baseball.
You killed 2 years ago. Yeah,
I haven't played in a while, but he's my relief pitcher.
So I used to do that, especially in the Landry game. I had a team that I was in it, my brother was in it, my wife was in it, and my in-laws, my parents, and my friends, all these people were in it. And what was funny was we have a friend named Cindy, and Cindy was in it, and she was a receiver with good hands. And one time we were talking about the game, I said, "Oh yeah, Cindy's got good hands," and everybody just broke out laughing. So here we are, 30 years later, and I still remember that. So
that's funny.
That's great.
Now, different rule sets.
Yeah.
Now there's 8,000 spring leagues, and the CFL didn't fold upon itself and all that. Is it possible, or maybe in the future, because it's pro strategy football, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the National Football League, arena type style stuff, or the rules for the new USFA, you can play in a half empty Birmingham Legion Field, and or CFL stuff, is that something that might be on the drawing board, or some?
So some of that made it this year.
Okay.
So some of the CFL stuff, for example, their 2-minute warning is at 3 minutes. I've got that in the game now.
Oh, nice.
You can play with 3 downs instead of 4. And the AI is smart. The AI says, if it's second down, it knows, well, I need to get the first down here. I forget what else I've added. Now, some of the harder things I have not gotten in yet.
Like 12 on 12?
I don't even know if 12 on 12 will make it next year, but I may try to add that thing where, what's it called? Rogue or Rouge?
A Rouge.
Rouge.
It's one point.
So if you miss the kick, it goes in the end zone. The other team gets 1 point.
Yeah, so I may try to add that. One of my beta testers is big on CFL, so he helped me with the timing. He said in those last 3 minutes, you get more plays than you do in the NFL. But outside those 3 minutes, you actually burn a little bit more time. So that's in the game. College rules are in the game, including their 2019 version of their playoffs and the 2021 version of their playoffs. And the previous playoffs, which were, and then none, because the old college had no playoffs. Same with the pros. Got all their stuff. One of the things I was going to try to add and did not yet is the ability to go for 3. I forget if that's XFL or USFL. But one of them has that you can go from 3.
Must have been the USFL, because I don't remember that ever being in the.
It could have been either USFL or XFL. Yeah, well, you tried from the 15-yard line or something like that.
Oh yeah, depending on where you tried for the play.
That's
think that was right.
That's right. And another thing was, and this almost made it. I got so close, but I finally had to stop it to do higher priority things, because some of these things, honestly, the lower. You might get a much smaller group of people that care, so I try to get more. So one of the things that we'll get in the game eventually is you cannot kick the extra point. You have to, and I forget which league that is.
That started with the WFL, was the action point.
So that will be in the game at some point. So to answer your question, I hope to add a lot more rules next year. Now, what won't get there is the 12 on 12.
Right, it takes a long time, and it changes every year. And if you went through,
but the long league, the long football field, I think it may be there next year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think you may have midfield be at the 55 next year.
The 55
as an option if you're playing the CFL. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't want that. There used to be in the 60s, there were exhibition games between NFL teams and CFL teams, and they would play with CFL. So imagine, an NFL team trying to play on a 110-yard field, and then 3 down. So the options are almost endless. They could go through. You could pull your hair out trying to figure them all out.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but the fact that you're trying to do that just gives the game more depth. The other thing I would ask is it possible, or would it be possible in future editions for the computer just to come up with there are people who just want to play with a fictional universe.
The computer doesn't do it, but you can. You can, this guy who's creating an orc team, he actually posted on Steam, said, hey, I want some ideas for names for my teams. So with the editor, you can do that. And I can create. Oh, another thing you can do is the game ships with like 5 different names files. Okay. So what were the names of players in the 50s? What were the names of players, today? And then one of them was like fantasy. If you want to have a league made up of players named Bilbo and Frodo and whatever, you can do that, and then there's a convenient little button in the editor where you first would say, I want to use this name file for the players, and now I click on this button, it goes through the whole file, it renames all your players using that file. So if you just want to have a bunch of crazy names in there, and you could even create a file that only has one name in it, Ron, and every player would then be named Ron. So
that's Gardner's worst nightmare.
Oh my God! Yeah. Ron had a great game today.
Yeah, but Ron let him by.
He did.
Ron let him by. What was the episode of SNL when George Steinbrenner was the guest host, and they did the skit with Bob Costas and Steinbrenner's with the Yankees, and he's playing all 9 positions.
Oh my gosh!
Pitching for the Yankees, George Steinbrenner.
That's pretty funny.
Bugs Bunny first base, Bugs Bunny second base.
That's right. So, I guess my last question is, what feature is in this year's game that you are, besides the skin tones, that you are most proud of?
In addition to the TV mode and highlights mode, I would say I really like what we've done with the audio, because now we have multiple commentary sets. Mike in the Truck created a referee set that was not in the game. So now if it goes to the penalty screen, it'll say, intentional grounding, offense, or offsides, defense, and so forth. And so he plus I took the suggestions that people asked for. I now have audio sliders in the game. So if you look in the settings on the sound tab, you've got music, commentary, referees, even the hut sound, the tackling sounds, everything. And you can say, I don't want them or I do want them, and I've got a slider. How loud do I want the huts to be?
Nice. Fantastic.
How loud do I want the huts, the tackles to be? Because maybe I don't want them real loud. Maybe I want them really loud.
Yeah.
But if I don't want them too loud so I can hear that Big Al's commentary better, that kind of thing.
Right.
And music, that's another cool thing. On Windows, and I may be able to get this on the Mac, I can now point at any folder on my computer, so no longer tied to the music I ship with the game. And one of my beta testers created some really cool folders like football music from the 70s. I can point there, and then I can pick one song and have it loop, or I can say, randomize. Just play through here. When that song ends, randomly pick another song. Nice. And I love that. So I think people really need to go check out the new settings dialog. It's option settings. It's called both. And of course, I love the amount of customization in the game with the weather. Oh, the weather is so much better now. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, if you're in December, I didn't consider the week of the year when setting the weather. Never thought about that. Now it does. So very cool. Mm-hmm. Hey, Cat.
Emily gets in the
makes
podcast.
A guest appearance.
My son has a cute kitten, so that's good.
All right. So where can we find this game, and when do you think it is coming out?
Great question. So it's going to be on Steam. Today's the 7th. I want to do some last-minute checks but I think it's in good shape. So I think it'll either be tomorrow, the 8th, or Friday, the 9th. I'm off on Friday, so doing it tomorrow evening. Either way, I'm available Friday if there's problems. That'll be on Steam for both the Mac and Windows. And then I'm going to catch my breath, and then a few weeks later, I'll probably get it on the Apple Store for Mac.
Okay. Do you guys have a website for this, or is it right through Steam?
Mainly through Steam. I do have a website, but I don't take the time to keep it up. So okay. I need to. I'll try to update it maybe in October, when we talked about taking a break.
Okay, so if you want this game, you go over to Steam on your computer.
And what's the list price?
$20, $19.99, and there's a cute little video that Mike in the Truck made.
That was hilarious. He showed that to me a while ago. Yeah,
$19.99. Yeah,
that's fantastic. All right, well, let's not make it 100 episodes between appearances on the show.
All right. Hey, if you guys want to follow up at the end of the year, I'll be available. But I know you probably keep really booked, so even next year is good.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, we'll definitely follow up and keep tabs on this game here. So, again, Kerry Batts, he is the creator of Pro Strategy Football, the new release 2023, coming out this week, hopefully. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. It's always fun.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, by the numbers, episode 150 of the Digital to Dice podcast. Imagine that, it was almost 100 episodes in between.
Yeah, it was episode 56.
I didn't realize it was that long.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
2 years this week.
But I'm excited. I'm excited for this game. I'm excited to try it out. I can't believe how much this game has changed and evolved.
It really is a whole different animal. And to think now, the mod team is great between Mike from the Truck and Lee and all the suggestions that Al has made. But the fact that this really is a one-person operation.
Yeah, it really is. And then he's got some friends doing the mods there, and they do a tremendous job. And the mods are all free, by the way. So you get a $20 game. You can play all these seasons with all the teams and their colors and the players. Oh, man, it is such a bargain for a football game. And it's a fantastic football game on top of it.
It really is, and it is deep. It really is a deep football simulation.
It really is. You can really get into it if you really want to play it. All right. Again, ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is our website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And don't forget to jump on our ESPN Pro Pick'em pool. We have that linked on our website as well as our Facebook group if you'd like to come in and just pick some teams and have some fun with us. Get it in before Thursday, though.
That's right. So if you're listening after Thursday, get it in before week 2.
That's right. Again, we're just having some fun with that.
Yeah.
And look for that new Pro Strategy Football 2023. Could be out by the time you listen to this show.
Yeah.
All righty. We'll talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.